Hi, it's me, Mom Lady, and for today's video, we will be learning about tenses of the verbs. But before that, let's roll the intro! For today's video, we will be learning about tenses of the verbs. You have to remember that the tenses of the verbs has the following forms. 1. Simple form. 2. Progressive or continuous form. 3. Perfect form. And 4. Perfect progressive or perfect continuous form. For the simple form, this is just the original word or the original verb. So for example, if you use the word build, it's originally build. Okay? You will not be changing anything. Next is the progressive or continuous form that indicates an action that is currently ongoing. Sa Tagalog, tuloy-tuloy siyang nangyayari. And we have the perfect form, or it indicates that an action has been completed, meaning it can be done in the past because it has been completed. And the last is the perfect progressive or the perfect continuous, meaning a combination of the perfect and progressive or perfect or continuous. It indicates an ongoing action that will be completed at one definite time or at some definite time. Now for the past tense. For the past tense, we have again the simple form or the original form of the verb. So for example, because it's simple past tense, it expresses an action or situation that started and finished in the past. Sa Tagalog, ito ay sinimulan noong nakaraan o ito ay nakalipas na o natapos na. For example, Georgie painted their fence last month. Take note of your time indicator. Your time indicator is last month, meaning that is when you will know if it happened in the past, in the present, or in the future. And in the sentence, Georgie painted their fence last month, it was last month that Georgie painted their fence. So take note, the original form or the original verb is paint. But since it's in the past tense, you add D or ED for the simple tense. Now, for the simple tense, as what I've told you earlier, you just have to add D or ED. So, from the original form, paint, ED was added to make it painted. Now, there are verbs that you cannot just add D or ED. We call that the irregular verbs. The irregular verbs undergo substantial changes when changing forms between tenses and irregular verbs. So for example, the base form be, okay, you cannot tell it's bid. You cannot add D, bid, or bed. No, you cannot do that. Okay? You change to was or were for the simple past and for the past participle, been. Okay, so there are a lot of lists for the irregular verbs. All you have to do is to just type it. You just type it in Google, and it will tell you a lot about irregular verbs. So again, there are certain verbs that you cannot just put D or ED into it, and we call that the irregular verb. Now let's go back to the past tense. Again, the simple past tense expresses an action or situation that started and finished in the past, and all you have to do is to just add D or ED to the verb. Okay? Next is we also have, a simple past tense is an action also that occurred just a little or a while ago. So for example, I ate an apple, meaning it just happened probably earlier. Now again, the past tense or the simple past tense expresses an action or situation that started and finished in the past. So, Georgie painted their fence last month, indicating that it happened last month. So, nung isang buwan, so ibig sabihin, yun ay nakaraan. And then, you just add D or ED to the verb. Alright, so from paint, from the original verb or original form, paint, it became painted because you add ED to the word paint. Also, you need to remember that the past simple tense expresses an action that occurred just a little while ago. So for example, sa Tagalog, ito ay nangyari kani-kanina lamang. So for example, I ate an apple, meaning kakain mo lang ng apple kanina. Okay? Another one, he caught a bird in the bushes. He caught a bird in the bushes. So probably ay nakakuha ka ng ibon kani-kanina lamang. So take note of the verbs ate and caught. These verbs are what we call the irregular verbs because you cannot put ed or d to the original word. So for example, I ate, you cannot say I eated. No. Or he caught, you cannot say from the original form catch, you cannot put ed, catched. No. Automatic, you'll be wrong. So it's called irregular verb because it undergo changes. That's why from the word eat, it became ate, and from the word catch, it became caught. Okay? Another thing that you need to remember in a simple past tense is it occurred on regular basis in the past. Sa Tagalog, nangyari siya before ng paulit-ulit or nangyayari siya before. Nangyayari siya before. So, for example, she worked in a factory. Now, it has ed again, emphasizing that it happened before. So, she worked in a factory, meaning she has been in the factory. She was there, okay? She worked there. So, she worked in the factory. Another one, the people paid less taxes in the past. So, in the past, kung tatagalugin natin, noon, okay, yung mga tao ay nakakapagbayad ng mas mababang tax. So, the people paid less taxes in the past. Take note also of the verb paid, okay? It's not P-A-Y-E-D. You cannot do that. Again, that will be wrong. So you put or you go to changes and we call that irregular verbs. That's why from the word pay, it became paid. Next thing is what we call the past progressive tense. Now, the past progressive tense used to express an action in the past that was ongoing up to a certain point in the past. Meaning, sa Tagalog, ito ay nangyayari hanggang. Okay? Ibig sabihin, merong hangganan. Pero, nangyari pa rin siya noon or nung nakaraan. So, it is formed by combining was or were, whichever is applicable, meaning if we use the word was, automatic, your subject, your noun, or anything that you talk about in the sentence should be singular. And if we talk about where, automatic, that is in plural. So, it is whichever is applicable. Plus, the ing form present participle of the verb. Take note of that, it's not in the past, but it's the present participle of the verb. Okay, for example, he was writing an email when the phone rang. So, Tagalogin natin siya. Siya ay nagsusulat ng email nung tumunog ang kanyang cellphone or ang kanyang telepono. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, there is an action in the past that was ongoing up to a certain point. That certain point was when the phone rang. Okay? So, look at the formula being used. Was or were, whichever is applicable, plus the ing form. So, he was writing an email when the phone rang. Another thing, if it's in a question form, were you writing the report when the electricity went off? Take note, it's were, even if it's singular, because you and I is an exception for the word were. Okay? So, were you writing the report when the electricity went off? So, the certain point or yung hangganan ng action ay nung namatay yung electricity. Same goes with the first sentence. He was writing an email when the phone rang. So, he was writing. He was there. Nandun siya. Nagsusulat siya. Kaya lang natigil dahil nag-ring yung kanyang phone. Okay? So, that is an action in the past that was ongoing up to a certain point in the past. Another thing that you need to remember in the past progressive tense is the spelling, okay, of the verb. So, for example, if you use the word play, okay, you just add ing. So, from play, playing. From cry, crying. Okay, bark, barking. Remember that the formula for your past progressive tense is was or were plus the verb ing. So, was playing, was barking, were crying. Okay? So, another one, if the verb ends in E, okay, you just have to remove the E and add ing. So, for example, from the word slide, okay, you remove the E and then add ing, sliding. From the word ride, you remove the E, then add ing, riding. Okay? So, that is the past progressive tense. Again, it is an action in the past that was ongoing up to a certain point. Tandaan na meron siyang hangganan nung natapos ang kanyang action. Okay? Another thing that you need to remember is the past perfect tense. The past perfect tense used to express an action that happened before something else happened in the past. Sa Tagalog, meron ng action na nangyayari. Merong nangyayari nung merong ibang nangyari. Okay? So, merong two actions in one sentence. So, ibig sabihin, dalawa ang nangyayaring action sa loob ng sentence or sa loob ng statement. And we call that the past perfect tense. Medyo hawigan siya kay past progressive tense. Okay? Kasi si past progressive tense ay meron din siyang action hanggang natigil lang dahil merong hanggang. So, merong nag-interrupt kay past progressive tense. Kay past perfect tense, meron ding nag-interrupt sa kanya, kaya siya natigil. Okay? The only difference is the use of the verb. So, how do you do that? The past progressive tense formula is was or were, depending or whichever is applicable, plus the verb ing in its present participle. So, we use was, playing, were barking, were crying, or was writing. Okay? That's past progressive tense. And for the past perfect tense, there is nothing except the word had. Okay? So, you just add had to the verb or to the word and then the past participle of the verb. So, nasa past, si past perfect. Again, the definition of the past perfect tense is an action that has been completed. That's why the word had plus the past participle of it indicates that it has been completed. Sa Tagalog, dahil sa word na had at saka yung word na past participle, pag pinag-combine mo sila, binibigyan kanya ng idea na natapos na siya. Okay? That it has been completed. So, for example, she had met him before the party. Okay? Take note that you use the word met. Okay? The sentence use the word met. So, it's not meted, okay, from the original word or the original verb meet. Okay? It's not meted. You don't add ed to the word, but it's an irregular verb that undergo changes. So, from meet, it became met. Okay? So, she had met him before the party. So, again, your past perfect tense, the formula is had plus the past participle of the verb. So, from the word she had met him, from the sentence she had met him before the party, meaning nakita na niya or nagkita na sila bago pa nagkaroon ng party. Okay? She had met him before the party. Take note, the word had plus the past participle met. It's not meted, okay, but it's met. Again, it's an irregular verb because it undergoes changes. Another thing also that you need to remember for the past perfect tense is always the verb should be in the past participle. Okay? The past participle does not indicate that you need to add D or ED, but the past participle is like the irregular verb. So another one, he had read different kinds of books before you came. They had played football in that field before it started to rain. Okay? She had gone to the coffee shop before she came. And last form of the past tense is what we call the past perfect progressive tense. For the past perfect progressive tense, it is used to express an action or a continuous action that took place in the past. Sa Tagalog, ito ay isang action na tuloy-tuloy na nangyari, pero nangyari iyon nung nakaraan. Okay? It is formed by combining had been with the ing form present participle of the verb. Again, as what I've mentioned earlier, your past perfect progressive is a combination of your perfect and your progressive, meaning your perfect that indicates completed action and your progressive that is a continuous action. It's a combination of the perfect and progressive. Therefore, it is used to express a continuous action that took place in the past. And your formula for that is combining the word had been from the perfect. Remember, the formula perfect is had. So now, it's had been from your perfect and your progressive with the verb ing present participle. So for example, I had been smoking for 10 years before I quit. Notice that had been is your perfect. Okay? Your perfect tense had been. Also, your smoking is your progressive. Smoking. That's from the word smoke. You remove the E and then you change it to ing. I had been smoking for 10 years. Meaning there is a continuous action that took place in the past. He was smoking for 10 years. 10 years siyang naninigarilyo before I quit. So, ibig sabihin, 10 taon muna siyang nanigarilyo bago niya na-realize na kailangan niyang huminto. And that is your past perfect progressive tense. Another one, he had been teaching for 12 years before he was certified. So, nagtuturo na siya for 12 years bago siya mabigyan ng certificate or mabigyan siya ng honor or mabigyan siya ng recognition or ma-certified. Okay? So, in other words, again, if we talk about the past perfect progressive, tatagalogin na natin pag sinabi nating past perfect progressive tense, ay merong action or merong tuloy-tuloy na nangyari, pero nangyari yun lahat nung nakaraan. Okay? Nangyari yun lahat nung nakaraan until such time na merong konting realization or merong something na nakapag-trigger para magkaroon o tumigil yung action na yun. And that is your past perfect progressive. Another thing that you need to remember for the past perfect progressive is the formula always, always. Subject plus had been plus present participle. It's always present participle because again, as what I've mentioned earlier, nasabi ko kanina na ang past perfect progressive ay combination ng perfect that indicates completed action and progressive that indicates tuloy-tuloy na action. So, it's always subject plus had been plus present participle. So, present participle, for example, from the word play, you just add ing, playing. From the word shout, you just add ing, shouting. Okay? And if it's E or the verb ends with letter E, you remove the E, you add ing. So, ride, riding, slide, sliding. So, that is your present participle. Okay? So, again, that is your past perfect progressive tense. Now that you know your tenses of the verbs and its forms, all you have to do is to read, read, and read. And from there, you can learn about tenses of the verbs. Do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates. See you again!